I just interviewed CPreds. He's a full-time Call of Duty content creator who just hit 400,000 YouTube subscribers, so congrats to him. And he's one of the fastest growing creators in the Warzone space. We dove into how to stay consistent even when views tank, the system CPreds used to grow while working full-time as a teacher, and why most creators destroy their channels by focusing on the wrong things. I'm Dylan. I interview professional creators so that you can learn from their stories, mistakes, and strategies and become a full-time content creator yourself. And if you want a super tactical look into what it actually looks like to become a full-time content creator, this conversation will break it all down for you. And so, without further ado, I hope you enjoy my conversation with Mr. CPreds. Stay humble, stay hungry. What does that mean to you?
So let's see, that slogan, I forget where that even originated, like what time period that originated that I started using that. I started putting it at the end of videos at least 2 years ago. And for me, it's because, content creation is not an anomaly for other things I've done. Like there's been a lot of different jobs I've had to do where it takes a lot of effort, you fail at. I think that's pretty representative for everybody. So for me, it was always like, stay hungry, keep working. That alliteration is nice. And then humility, I think, is really important, especially as you get into content creation. You have a lot of people who are like, dude, you're amazing. I love your videos, yada, yada. And that's great. It's cool that like you can influence people positively. But for me, I've always known if you let it get to your head, you get a little too cocky about how you're doing. That's when things start to go wrong. So for me, I always wanted, it's almost like a reminder to myself, but I'm like, hey, I'm sure some other people will resonate with this too. So that's kind of where it started.
I love it. I had Jake from Rattlesnake TV on here, and he said a mindset that helped him was before you get to 100,000 followers, just act as though you have 100,000 followers, like show up as consistently and as though like you have this huge audience waiting for you to put out really quality stuff every single day, every single week.
Yep.
But once you get to 100,000 followers, now you have 5 followers. Like you need to show up and like you cannot rest on your laurels. Like you have 5 followers, you are a peasant. You have to not let up and continue to show up and put in the work every single week.
Man, it's crazy. I see a lot of creators around my level of subscribers, quote unquote, are following who have been at it for years longer than me. And it's like, it's amazing how many people just don't upload every day. And it's not like, obviously that is difficult on some level, but for me, it's like, dude, I'm doing a disservice to people if I can't either get ahead or even if it's a weekend, I don't care. Something has to be uploaded, whether it's a tweet, a community post on YouTube, a long form, a short form, like just getting up a short, even if you repost a short, it's like just the basic effort that'll separate you from so many creators who only upload like once a month. And it's like just showing up, it's crazy how much it can do. It's insane.
In terms of your subscriber count, you just recently hit 400,000 on YouTube. So, number one, congrats.
Thank you.
2, I would love to know, this might be a wordy question, but what between like 0 starting out all the way to 400,000, and obviously you have other platforms that you have hefty audiences on, which we'll get into later, but what is exactly the same as it was at 0 subscribers that you thought would be different, and what is different that you thought would stay the same?
Ooh, that's a good question. So one thing that I thought would be different at like 400K is when you upload a video, just almost nothing being able to flop in your head because you're like, oh, dude, I have so many followers, like such a large community, like no video is ever going to flop. And it's like, it's a weird thing because obviously to some extent, like people are looking at your content and it's like, they're not really thinking that it's flopping, but you get in your head and some ideas just don't hit. But you would think if you hit a certain level, nothing can flop because you just have such a branding at that point. And once again, like somebody will look at the channel and be like, oh, this dude never posts a short under 100K. But in my mind, I'm like, there were points where I was at 100,000 subscribers where every video was hitting 100K. So I'm like, I should be hitting like 400 or 500K. But it's really learning that necessarily the views don't change, but the quality, the level of support, it does. And so you might see like, oh, dude, this short really popped off. I got 1 million. It's not like I'm getting 1 million every short just because I have more subscribers. So I guess to simplify it, the correlation between subscribers and consistent views every time, it's not as like concrete as people think. So that would be one thing. And then I guess the inverse of that, right, would be something that like I had an expectation for it and it was different. I think would be like the consistency of revenue, if that makes sense. I guess I thought it would be more inconsistent than it is at this level of subscribers, if that makes sense. Like you can get a pretty consistent income with the use of analytics and, posting every day, brand deals. And sure, it's going to be off a little bit each month, but I did not realize to what extent it could be that consistent. Whereas when I started out, you'd see a month where it's like thousands different. And in your mind, you're thinking, how can I ever go full time with this? But then you realize like, oh, there's a lot you can do to diversify your income and not just rely on like Twitch subs and donations. And once you stop doing that, you can get a lot more consistent with your income. So those would be the two I would say.
Very interesting. Okay, so to reflect back, make sure I got this. The thing that is not different that you thought would be different, in so many words, I don't know if you meant it this way, but I almost heard like, once I get, quote, big enough, I will almost be almost like entitled to like, well, yeah, big audience, bigger
Yep.
results. And like, I won't have to necessarily work as hard or put in as much input to get, like the output will follow more or less.
Yeah, 100%. Like you think you would just post a video of like, and to some extent, right, it's there. Like I could post a video of me doing whatever and like it'll get some amount of views because I built up that trust. But what I think a lot of like newer creators probably need to hear is if you're in it for the long haul, you're going to have to keep innovating. You're going to have to keep coming up with new ideas and you're still going to fail even at like 400,000 or 500,000 subscribers. But once you get to that level, you kind of know how to handle it and you've been through it enough times. You've seen these swings on your channel where it's like, dude, I just hit 20 million views. How am I now down to 12 million? I lost 8. And you get used to those swings at the time of the years and you're used to handling it. So yeah, it's like, it's a good and bad thing. Like I wouldn't say it's necessarily bad that it works that way because it just shows that like, even if you have 10K subscribers, you can still pop off if you do the right things. So I think it's ultimately like a good, encouraging thing, but it definitely threw me for a loop.
Sure. And the devil of the relativity of numbers, right? Like when you're
Yep.
starting out, you get a video that hits 20,000 views. You're like, I've
This
I've
is
made it.
amazing. Yeah.
I'm quitting my job. Like
Yeah,
I've put in my
right.
2 weeks.
Right.
And
And now
then-
it's like I get 20K and I'm like, I'm thankful for it, but I'm like, dude, what did I do wrong? It's almost like, and you have to blame yourself too, to some extent in that situation, which I get. I'm really negative with myself in that regard. Like I'm always my worst enemy. Like, dude, I posted a video last night. It's at like 12K in like 17 hours. And it's like a video that I took from another niche, like I sat on it for a little bit. I've tested multiple thumbnails and it's still not hitting yet. But I think the thing is too, don't focus as much on the views because it's like that one video flopping is not going to really, like, it's not the end of the world. I just let it sit and keep testing stuff. And over time, it might pop off. And that's another thing that I think newer creators need to learn is like they'll give up on a video when they post it and think it's done. You can still change the title or thumbnail, even for a YouTube short. Keep posting. And as you keep posting, some people that newly found your content might go back and watch that. And so that's another thing I've learned is like, just never give up on a video, post as much as you can quality and try to build up that brand and you'll be surprised. Like I have videos from months ago when Warzone was in like a completely different state. People are going back and watching those videos because they like the concepts, the structure, the idea of like what I've built. And like, that's a cool thing to me because I'm like, wow, like 50, 60,000 views every day on like older videos. You wouldn't think that's possible in a gaming niche. Like you would think that's not even fathomable, but yeah, just don't give up. Just don't give up. You never know.
Yeah, I love it. I just had James, he runs the Epic Chess YouTube channel. And I'll do this here in a second. I have your channel up, but we looked at his oldest videos on his channel. And I was like, oh, it looks like this one about Gary Kasparov or something, was your first viral video. And he was like, no. It was a 3-year-old video. And he was like, that took 18 to 20 months before it started to actually, but he was like, it was at under 1,000 views. And then almost 2 years later, and now all the way to 250,000 views.
Yep.
And he went back and he changed the thumbnail. I was like, oh yeah, these thumbnails are interesting. He's like, yeah, but I put those thumbnails, I changed them like 2 years after I made
Yep.
them. Like, go back and clean the
Yep.
channel.
100%. I've seen that myself, and I think it comes down to like YouTube is the ultimate in terms of like the creator lens. It's the ultimate like passive income if you play it right. But for viewers, it just goes to show like off viewer behavior. They might not see that video now, but if you keep building up that brand and consistency, and the style is still pretty much the same, like it still feels like you made the video, and you keep that consistency, it's amazing what can happen. And like there's been points in the life cycle of Warzone where I caught myself being a little bit lazy, and I'm like, I could push myself harder with the ideas. I think around January I had one of those like epiphanies. I'm like, yeah, the game's not in the best spot, but let me try to like just post the best ideas I can and lock in. And that's really where I saw my channel hit like another spike. Like I was kind of in a lull around like 300,000 subscribers, and I was like, man, like what's going on here with this game? And I'm like, know what? Let's not blame the game. Let's just say these video ideas could be better, and they could definitely be better and more evergreen. And that was just when I locked it in, I'm like, let's post every single day. And now it's nice because those videos are still getting views because they were good ideas. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah, you tweeted about evergreen content recently and about how that really is the way. Like, how do you expect people to be consuming your stuff or watching your stuff, and i.e. making more revenue while you're sleeping, while you're not doing anything other than videos that just live in the ether on the internet that still continue to provide value to the people who want to watch it. And I don't remember the exact statistic, but I heard recently that like 90 to 95% of videos that get watched on YouTube, but I believe just like the internet, were made within the last 24 hours. So like at any given point, it's like the vast majority of content that is consumed was very recently made, meaning like the turnover is just
Interesting.
constant.
That's very interesting. I did not know that.
I need to be fact checked. I can't just be spitting out these random statistics out of my ass, but
no, that makes sense though, because you're just thinking about like a lot of like news and commentary channels on YouTube. Sports is consumed, education, news in general. It makes sense, but I think the other thing to think about too is the amount of people that are on YouTube at any given point is so high that even if it is only a few percent, that's still a lot of opportunity. So that's how I think about it too, is got to post today and you got to make your content viewable for tomorrow. That's how I'm always trying to think. Even if like a short goes up and it's like about something that just happened in the game, I'll even try to go back and cut it later and make it more watchable like 3 months from now. And there are shorts that are popping on people's feeds that I made in like 2022 before I switched to like the Rebirth teacher persona in Warzone. And people are like, what? Like this dude looks so different. It's like the video's like 3 years old, but it still pops up because it's a concept that people can watch right now. It's a completely different version of Warzone too. That's the wild thing.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting we're talking about this because I recently have made a shift in how I consume, like as a consumer of content. And I think it was because I heard that stat and I was like, I don't want to just be, watching things as they are coming out. Like, I don't really follow the news. I'm not a huge sports person, but like those two industries right there, it's like,
yeah.
Are you going to watch highlights from 8 months ago of like the NFL? Like, it's like you want to know what really just happened this past week or these past few days. News, I think even more so. I think that's the most obvious example. But I like storytelling or like video essays. I think those are very, very timeless. Things where it's just like, oh wow, this video looks amazing. It's like, oh, it's 4 years old, and how revolutionary that feels. Like, wow, it's almost like decades old. This is what it feels like.
Yeah, 100%.
Man, let's take a peek at your channel. Can you see this?
I cannot, for whatever reason.
Oh, really?
Oh, now I can. I got you.
Okay, yeah, I think it lags a little bit. So these are on your YouTube channel. These are your oldest videos.
Yep.
what is it like to look at your first few videos posted, and what was this time of your life like?
Oh man, this was like really when I was experimenting and starting out and kind of just like emulating what was going on around me in the Warzone space. It's kind of funny because these videos are all like very stereotypical, like Call of Duty thumbnails and titles. There wasn't a lot of storytelling. One of the videos in here, there was some storytelling. It was like the sniper support one, but I didn't have my style down yet. I didn't understand what it meant to be a YouTuber or make a good video. I was just trying, I was just putting stuff out. And to me, it kind of shows that there is value in that because I think putting out videos just to like get practice and get reps, a lot of people skip that step and they never get that comfortability. But it's ironic now because all these ideas were taken from like other Warzone YouTubers or like ideas that worked in that space. Now, I don't ever take ideas from other Warzone YouTubers for the most part, unless it's like a really good idea and I have a twist I could throw. I do my research outside of Warzone now. So it's interesting. And then I went through kind of like an educational era where I started to get some views on YouTube, but it wasn't really my style or my brand. People weren't watching for me as much, I would say. They were watching for that information or like news about the game. And now, fortunately, I think I've built a little bit more of a brand around myself and learned that. And that has definitely been a game changer. So,
Yeah. Yeah, cool. And so stepping into it, you highlight the value of I don't like using the word copying, but basically like I don't know anything. Where do I start? Let me at least I'll just do kind of my version of the only thing I know, which is what has been done before to just like
yep.
get going on this journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you kind of have to some extent. And obviously there's like a level of like copying people's scripts to a T that, people have done that to me. And it's kind of ironic to be on the other foot of it now, where there's been a few videos even where like I kind of started some series in Warzone that I just thought up off the top of my head. Or, I just thought about through a lot of different ideas that I like got into one. And people just ran with the series that I was doing, copied my title thumbnail exactly, and kind of just dragged it into the ground. And I'm still coming up with new ideas for that series. And meanwhile, these people aren't coming up with any new ideas to add on. They're just copying my script to a T. And it's like, so I've seen it with a few series that I've done. I'm like, well, I understand it because I've been in that position before, feeling like I need an idea that's going to work. Let me take from what's already been done. But you truly want to become like a pioneer in whatever niche you're in. Because for me, I'm not going to say like I'm one of the top Warzone YouTubers, but I act like I am in terms of like how I approach it. And I think that's important for a lot of people. Like I don't have the most subscribers out of like the entire Warzone niche, but like growth wise, I think that's been the secret to a lot of growth is just new ideas that nobody's done.
And it's if I look at the inverse of that, it's kind of a sign that you've really made it. Like other people are copying your stuff, and as aggravating as that is, like you put a lot of time, effort, and love into creating that. So to see someone else do it, especially if it is very successful for them, you're like, like you're
yeah.
But like that must be a signal, I guess, to take a silver linings or a positive outlook on it. It's like people are looking at you and thinking, this guy's doing it right. Like this guy's doing the correct thing.
Yeah, you do have to look at it that way. But a lot of times I'll like take a step back and I'm like, you know what? Let me not try to get too egotistical about it. Because at the end of the day, if I'm the one that came up with that particular series or whatever, I know I can come up with another one. And there's been a bunch of different series that I've kind of cycled through. And, I think another thing is finding somebody in the space who like you could connect with and be a good friend that you actually trust, that you can bounce ideas off of and come up with those new series and like you can kind of ideate together. So I have a few friends in the space who, will always bounce ideas off each other. And it's like, I think that helps you become better. You have those people around you. Once you get a team of editors and things like that. My mentality is like, when talking about ideas, I only trust a few people. And at the end of the day, if somebody does copy me, I'm just going to try to outwork them. And that's just always my mentality. I never go and comment or like call them out, by name on Twitter or something like that. The people that do that, I'm like, hey, it's a waste of time. Let's just get the next video. And they won't be able to copy that. That's always been my mentality.
Yeah, especially if someone is sort of making a career out of copying other people. I mean, that's just unsustainable. Like it's maybe some short bursts or short like quick wins.
Right. It's not going to work in the long term. 100%.
Yeah. Cool. Well, then I'll stop copying you. Sorry, I keep doing that. I just
about time.
I haven't played Warzone a day in my life, but I just I can't stop making Warzone content. I just love it.
Dude, it's crazy. You never even played the game, but you're popping off.
That's right. And I'm a coach. I'm a Rebirth. I'm a Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Coach.
Yeah.
No,
Call of Duty coach.
In your first year, what did you get totally wrong? And maybe a better question is, what are the biggest misconceptions people have, like newer creators or people who say they want to be a full-time content creator have, maybe like harsh realities that if they only knew was actually a part of this game?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for me, it was too much of an emphasis on streaming and trying to play it that way. That's probably the biggest one I see. I see a lot of creators who they start out and they immediately want to collab or, look for self-promotion, whether it be joining Discords and spamming their link. I'm live right now. Connecting with people. I do see it a lot with people on Kick now specifically of like this whole streamer networking culture. And I get it because like I almost fell into it at a certain point myself of like, oh, you got to connect. I think it's better to find one person who you either already know or you think you can trust, you vibe with well, that you can make content with in the long term, that you see yourself growing with. And it's just that one person over trying to network with that next person that has 20 viewers. Because I saw myself falling into that. Like, oh, this person has 20 viewers. Let me try to stream with this guy. Or like, this guy has 6 viewers. And I would stream with all these guys that were like 10 to 20 viewers. And, I can look back, most of them quit in less than a year or gave up or fizzled out. Where there are a few people that I met early on that I would collab with and do content with. They're still around today. And Cup of Joe is one of them who I met early on that we had a good relationship. He would challenge me, and that did come about from me just saying, hey, you want to run up some games? So like, don't feel like you shouldn't reach out to people. But the amount of people that I'll have reaching out that'll either send me an email to like my agent's business account or DM on Twitter, like, hey, I think we'd be good vibes or like we can make some good content, yada, yada. Cool. Like there's no harm in reaching out. Just for me, I think you got to find somebody who's kind of in a similar situation to you in terms of like you vibe well, you're both starting out, grind it out together. There's just a lot to be had there. A lot of people are like, dude, if I can just get one shout out, it's not going to work because if somebody's shouting you out and you don't have similar content to them, similar level of entertaining is just going to fizzle out. And I've shouted out, I can list probably 5 channels on the top of my head. I shouted them out in a YouTube short. They gained 8,000 subscribers overnight. They have 0 viewers now. They don't post. And it's just, I've seen it so many times. I don't even bother doing those anymore when I run into like newer streamers because it just kind of almost kills their channel, unfortunately. So
yeah,
that's what I did wrong.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's really fascinating. I appreciate you sharing. And I think there's a theme here with these last several minutes of what's been talked about around like, how do I like growth at all costs? Like, how do I just like this month to get 7,000 or 8,000 more subscribers or followers versus like what we teach in Grindstone, is like the thing that really matters, that actually genuinely matters is like, are you still doing this 10 years from now and loving your life, loving the process, loving the business? Like, do you enjoy this and enjoy the life that you're carving out for yourself?
100%. And I'll say this, there's a lot of people that I saw, back on Call of Duty TikTok when I started, like I made my TikTok 2022. It was already, Warzone TikTok had already been around since 2020. I wasn't on it. I was late to the scene. There are, when I tell you, hundreds of people who aren't making content anymore because they didn't try to learn the fundamentals. They had built these quick schemes to like get followers or get TikTok live viewers. I don't do any of that. Like, I don't do this thing where it's like trying to game the system and gain followers. Like, I've tried it in the past, but like I can think of so many trends of, oh, if you join my stream, blah, blah, blah is going on. And every time you hit that follow button, a sound effect plays in my ear. Great. You just gained 500,000 followers overnight. But what do you have to show for it now? Because if you don't have that consistent engagement, that community, brands are going to see through that. So you're not going to get paid from brand deals, and you're certainly not going to make money off TikTok if you're getting no views. So it's at a certain point, learning that slow and steady and like gaining that momentum, eventually it'll catch up. Like there are people who have been watching me for years that didn't subscribe. They didn't even know they weren't subscribed. Eventually all those people subscribing, like it'll add up over time, but just make good content, build a brand around you, and the rest will follow. It's that simple. Well, it's not that simple, but in theory, it's that simple.
In principle, yeah. That's really good. Yeah, and you know what? An insight that popped up to me as you were saying all of this, like, because I talk about this all the time. Obviously, I have people like full-time creators on this show that like we have this exact same conversation, but I never quite thought about it in this way, in this hypothetical. Not that this is a common occurrence, but like you just start making videos, and then by the 1 in a million or however much chance, like one of your first 3 just goes mega viral. And I'm almost thinking like it's almost a curse, I would feel like. If you don't yet have the skills to maintain an actual audience, if you underneath all of it, don't really know what you're doing yet, which would be totally normal if you just started. Anyway, I that's actually, I think I'll like seek this out. Like if like the people, it's almost like a child. I think of like a child actor star.
Yeah.
Where like you just kind of start life with a lot of opportunities, like a lot of things handed to you, or just like no real experience of, I guess, like the grind. And like, man, this really takes longevity and hard work and grit. And anyway, yeah, I never really thought about that in having these conversations.
That would definitely be a curse, because I know for me, I didn't go like viral until probably like 6 months of uploading 2 to 3 shorts a day on YouTube Shorts. Like I wasn't really seeing results, but I was just pounding shorts. I was like, okay, let me find my style, whatever. And eventually, after kind of practicing storytelling, practicing how to make a good short, getting the right clip, finally had a clip that went viral. And I gained and I remember it to this day because I was on a work trip. I was still teaching at the time. I was on a field trip. It was the end of the year. It was like May. I had been uploading every day since really like January. So just months of that, like March, I think I had gotten close to 1,000 after finally uploading. And, there would be days I wouldn't upload, but it was so satisfying uploading again and again every day at 8 a.m., throwing in another one when I could, editing on the train on the way to work, editing when I got home from work. When I was streaming, I was just fishing for clips that I could turn into shorts. And that one finally hitting, and it ended up hitting like 350K or something in a week. And I gained like 7,000 subs off that. That was just like the moment I was like, okay, things are starting to go right for me. But it wasn't like it flipped after that. I had to keep going, and I had to keep learning my style. Long form wasn't cooking at all for me. So that was a good moment, because it really taught me like, okay, this one hit. If you really want to be about this, you have to be consistent. You have to keep going. Every video's got to do this. And I was like, how do I even do that? And then I would have more successes. Like another video would hit 100K. Another one, and then the first one hitting 1 million, I think was like, this is cool. This is what's up. And figuring out a way to kind of gain that audience and subscribers. But it was a long road to 100K. Took a long time for sure.
I'm sure. And it sounds like the road from 0 to 100K was quite different from 100K to 200K, which was probably different from 200 to 300, 300 to 400.
Yeah, I would say the fastest was 3 to 400K, which probably isn't too surprising because of all the momentum and stuff. And, when you really get cooking and you have so much content available, at this point, I've posted probably close to 2,000 plus videos on YouTube, but I've privated or unlisted some of them. I'm like, and that one I don't want people really seeing because it was just bad, or like it's not going to be relevant to my current audience. I still left some up that are old that I'm like, I think my current audience would enjoy watching this and seeing like where I started. But I left up a handful of those videos that I thought would be good. Like the first video, a lot of people will go back and watch that like, oh, this is cool to see his first video, like how he started. But I have probably a little bit under 1,000 videos and streams in circulation. And just all of the, I mean, right now it's probably like 2.2 million 48-hour views, which is like just crazy when you think about it. But that's people watching the current videos, going back to the old videos. You can get some crazy subscriber growth when you have all that going. So the momentum on YouTube is just different than any other website. Like TikTok, you'll have one TikTok that pops off, you gain like 5,000 followers or whatever. It's not going to last because there's just not, YouTube is so evergreen, especially YouTube Shorts. Like it's insane. So it can compound pretty quickly.
You said that you did editing on the train to work.
Mhm.
What type of job were you working, and how did you have the time and bandwidth to be posting so frequently at the time?
No sleep. I was a middle school teacher in the Bronx, so I would work from clock in time was like 7:20, and usually I'd leave around 5 p.m. And it was like a 45-minute commute. So my logic was, if I'm going to be on the subway car commuting, let me try to go to the very back of the train, sit in like the emptiest part, and try to just edit. Because luckily, sometimes you get out of work around 4:30 before rush hour like really heated up, and you could just get a seat at like the edges of the train, and you could find some space to edit. But yeah, it'd be uncomfortable a lot of times. But I was like, let me see if I could just edit a little bit. Then I get back home. I'd usually like take a break, eat dinner, and either hop on stream for like 2-3 hours, get some footage, edit some more. But I knew that's what it was going to take. Like I just knew in my head, okay, seeing all my other friends that are grinding that I've met at an early stage in the space, seeing other people who post every day, like people that I'm kind of aspiring to emulate, it's like I see the work ethic that goes into it. Like these people like the Tim the Tatmans, the Cypher PK. A lot of people just view them as big YouTubers who just made it and that's easy. But like you could see the grind that goes into it. I was like, dude, if I want to do this, I've got to give it my all. And I just went all in for like 2 years. I know not everybody can do that. Like, I was in a position like I'm still like now, I'm getting closer to that 30 age mark. But like, before, like when I first started being like 24, 25, I knew, okay, I don't have a family, don't have this and that. I don't have people like relying on me for income. It's either now or never. Like this is the time to go all in. So, looking back now, I'm glad I did. But there were definitely days where I was like, is this worth it? I don't know. Like you definitely have those thoughts.
And what would you say to someone who wants to go all in, but does not have the luxury of, or I should say, does have obligations? Maybe they have a spouse, they have kids, a house to take care of. What words of wisdom would you share?
Yeah, see, that's tougher. I think it comes down to what can you do to be as efficient as possible. What can you swing? Like, what's the maximum you can do? Because I think, people always say to me like, oh, well, I don't get to do this for a living, so I don't get the opportunity to put out content like you do. And I'm like, at the end of the day, regardless of where you're at, if you're young, you're 30 and you already have kids, it's going to take sacrifice to make content creation a reality. But if you focus on quality over quantity and like you really I would focus on YouTube over streaming, if you can sacrifice an hour a day, which a lot of people probably can and they don't realize, you can still put out a quality video in whatever space you're trying to get into and you can study and you can make it happen, but you just got to work smarter. So I think for me, having organized systems has been just really critical. Like I have a calendar, a task manager. Now, luckily I have, like a family member who I'm able to pay to be an assistant to help me out. Obviously it didn't start that way. So I would have to organize. I would use, trackers. I would use like Google Docs. What videos am I doing? A lot of people, they kind of just wake up and they're like, all right, here's a video I got on stream. I'm going to turn that into a video. And unfortunately, that's just not good enough in a competitive environment anymore. Like maybe 8 years ago, that would be enough. It's just not enough to just post clips and stuff. And a lot of people, they focus more on like streaming and getting clips than they are on like studying and learning what people want to watch. Like, what do people like? And I took that approach of like, okay, what are videos I can make that people are actively seeking and want to watch instead of just what I got? And that's the game changer. So
I love that you just brought up systems, and I have a challenge for you then.
Okay.
If I removed every audience member from you, I got rid of all of your channels. Nobody knew of CPreds. Like the brand of CPreds it's gone, never existed.
Yep.
And I said, well, Chris, you have 12 months to get 100,000 followers on any platform, and like total, like it could be a combination of platforms. It could be all in one platform.
Yeah.
You have no reputation, but you do have all your skills.
Okay.
That you have now. And you can't make Call of Duty content.
Can't make Call of Duty, but I could do another game.
Yeah, it just cannot be Call of Duty. How would you spend these next 12 months?
So, and assuming somebody's watching this that wants to do this, right? And maybe they do have like good public speaking skills. They know like they figure out how to make a title, thumbnail, all that. I would pick a game I would be comfortable playing just for fun, casually, and would just enjoy no matter what. Which if I can't pick Warzone, I'd probably go the direction of something like Fortnite. So assuming I still have all my skills, I know I would focus on Fortnite, and I would not stream at all for the first few months. No streams for 6 months. I would make my Twitch and Kick or whatever, and I would like have it linked, but I wouldn't actively stream on it. So if people are finding me, they're like actively looking for my Twitch or whatever, and they're asking for it, but I wouldn't stream. I would try to post a short and a long form every day on that one channel, the best I could, to get that rep and practice and build it up, get that consistency, and also build up your YouTube channel. So at a certain point, YouTube has to know what audience you're actually targeting. And so it helps if you can get some posts up. But I would make sure that if it's not a quality post, I wouldn't post it. And I would try to get a catalog going. So maybe for a few weeks, I wouldn't post at all. I would just go and build up all these different long form and short form ideas that are evergreen that I can work off. I would post those to start. And then I would just start tackling whatever anybody's doing in the Fortnite niche, but doing it in my own way. So I would go and watch people like Nick A30, Cypher PK, some of my teammates in Zen. Although I'm not in Zen in this scenario, but that's what I would probably do. And then once I start to build that up and I can post every day, I'm ahead, I'm posting good quality content, I'm getting good engagement, then I would start streaming and trying to get those gameplays live. So I would go live at a consistent time every day, do my content while I'm live so people know what to expect, and multi-stream everywhere. TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Facebook, Instagram. I'm live streaming everywhere I can that my computer can hold it. That way I'm getting the most out of my time. Then I'm logging off after like 3 hours and I'm planning content. I'm like, where am I going to post here? What am I going to do that? And I'm using every medium possible. I'm posting Instagram stories. I'm posting on Twitter. Anything I can do just to break in. And then when something works and I look at the analytics of it, I try to understand why it works and I continue to do that thing and double down. And with that, I would think, especially in a game like Fortnite, like if you think about like Fortnite, Minecraft, Roblox, I don't like those games as much as Call of Duty, and that's why I stick to COD. I could play it every day and not get bored. You have to have a game that you could really enjoy, or else you should probably do variety. Because you have to enjoy what you're doing, and people can feel that. So that's kind of what I would do. Kind of wordy, but that would be my plan.
No, I love it. And as far as the content creation piece, like outside of stream, which you said you wouldn't even stream for the first few months, you just like start building up your repertoire and build up almost like a library for the first few weeks.
Yep.
What would your batching schedule or system be? Would you just like take it a day at a time, or you do all my recording on this day, all the scripting on this day? Like how would you break that down in like a typical weekly schedule?
Yeah. So I would probably do what I do now, which is every week I plan out videos for the next week. And then I write down a catalog of videos I want to do for the month. So in a game like Call of Duty where there's constant updates, obviously that's harder to do. But on my main channel, my solution is I just don't do update day content for the most part. Sometimes I do. If I just pull an Audible and I'm like, this new mode is cool or whatever, I'm doing a video on it. I now put those all on my second channel and I just focus on evergreen content. And for shorts, sometimes I will do update stuff because it'll just hit for the first time. But I'm usually planning it out that week. So like I go in, what updates are happening this week? Okay, I could do an update video for YouTube Shorts and TikTok on this day. Oh, for my second channel, I can do an update video on this day. So I do it weekly, and then each day, okay, do we need to pull an Audible? How's this going? But when it comes to scripts, luckily for me, with all the teaching experience and public speaking, I don't really do a lot of scripting. I just write down the main ideas or, okay, this needs to be in the intro. And then we kind of make changes from there. So not a lot of scripting goes on with me and my team because I pretty much just wing it and say whatever comes to mind, but I'll have the video topic planned out. Like, okay, this concept needs to be in there. How are we going to word that? And if I need to write it down because I think I'm going to forget, I will put a little Word doc with some outline points. That's like the max I ever do. It's like 95% unscripted, I would say.
Cool. Okay. Well, challenge accepted. Can't wait to see you do this over the next 12 months.
I might do it with Fortnite. We'll see. Maybe I'll have to now.
That's cool. Cool, man. So yeah, big themes popping out at me. Organization, like knowing when you're doing what. All of that I heard like the total opposite of, figuring it out as you go, building the plane as you fly it sort of thing. Like you sound like a proactive person, not only in the short term, but in the long term, right? Like,
yeah,
what is the long game that you're really working toward? Why are you really doing this? Mm-hmm. And even short term, like what does the next month and certainly week look like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. You want me to answer that one?
No, this is my show, and I feel like it's my turn to no, yeah, of course, yeah, I'd love to know.
No, I was just gonna say, like, no, you're definitely spot on. A lot of people in the space I'll see either in Call of Duty or Fortnite, just the things that are close. They're not really thinking about when they're gonna do what video for the week. So for me, it's like I have goals already in my mind. Like 400K happened faster than I thought it would. I won't lie, but for 500K, I'm like, can I hit it by the next Call of Duty? That's like what I'm thinking in my head. And to do that, I have all these video series and ideas that are kind of laid out. And I kind of think about it through that individual video series and ideas. So I have those big goals in my head, but I'm not like, oh, didn't hit 1,000 subscribers today. But we definitely track all that. Like, okay, this month we only gained 22,000 subscribers. Why? Okay, because this one video from 3 months ago started dying out. What did we do in that video that helped us gain subscribers? But also, like, to some extent, I think you have, as you start to grow a little bit, you start to think a little bit less about subscribers, and it's more like per video and like brand wise. So like long term, you start thinking about building out your brand as a whole. Like, who are you? What do you want people to get out of your videos? Like what are you doing as a whole? And then each video is more or less like, okay, this video is coming out in 1 week. What do I need to do for that video? But by focusing on that, you'll achieve the subscribers ultimately.
Interesting. Okay, so focusing heavily or much more heavily on the inputs itself. Again, like kind of almost like just zooming in, like looking at the next 5 feet in front of you as you're climbing this infinite mountain.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Cool. Would you be willing? Actually, no. Let's do this first. I'm going to share screen again.
Yeah.
And we previously looked at your oldest videos. I want to go to... Yeah, my computer really lags on this monitor.
That's all good. I see it now.
Let's now go to your most popular.
Mm-hmm.
So this is your most popular long form. Obviously, if we go to your shorts, we'll find some other ones. But as far as this long form, I let a 7-year-old make my loadout. It's got 683,000 views, posted 11 months ago. Can you take us from start to finish, from ideation to execution in this 12-minute video?
Yeah. So that was a very thought out topic. So at this point, when that video was put out, if I remember right, it's around, I want to say April of last year. So we've just passed it by about a year. I was not full time. February, March were kind of like a tough month for my channel, not a lot of growth. And I was fully focused on breaking into long form. Like, how do I do this? I had some success, but I couldn't sustain it. Right? Like, it's like I would upload one video and it would just flop. And I'm like, what happened? So I was like, okay, I need to make a series here. Now, I had a series at one point, a video that hit around 50K. And I had all these series that just like I didn't really think of them as series, but they were videos that all worked individually. I hosted a custom lobby where people could only use their fists. and that video had hit 30K for me. Then there was another video on like the history of Rebirth Island, and another video that was a 5-year-old made my loadout. My face was in none of the 3 videos. So I'm like, okay, what do I do here? So I was talking to one of my buddies, Shady, who was like one of the top Warzone YouTubers. And he was like, you really need to have a video that pops off, and you need to kind of like establish a style and just keep going. Like, your video ideas are good, just keep going. And he told me, he's like, you should try this style of thumbnail, like a different style that I hadn't been doing that was popping off, that he was using and 2 other YouTubers were using. And he was like, just try it. He's like, because I had tried the same thumbnail on the 5-year-old loadout and another video called 12-year-old loadout. It worked on the first 2. It didn't work on the third one. So I'm like, why isn't this working? You know, and I was like, it's got to be because I've used this same thumbnail too many times. I have to innovate. So I'm like, you know what? Let me listen to him. Let me throw on this gunsmith. But I'd never used my face in a viral video. Like, the highest it had was like 30, 40K. I'm like, let's just try it. So I just tried it. I took a similar style that Shady had been doing, but I kind of put my own craftiness into it. Me and my thumbnail designer, Josh, at least, because like I didn't make the thumbnail itself. And I was like, let's play around with this. So I took my time with the video. I edited it myself, which I think is kind of important when you start out, is not having an editor edit everything. So like, I had an editor that I've been working with for 2 years. His name is Micah. He's great. We've been at it, kind of tag teaming since 2022. Same thing with Josh, my thumbnail designer. But I edited this one and I put a lot of storytelling and thought into it. And then I was like, let me focus on this title and thumbnail. So I threw up that title and thumbnail. I let a 7-year-old make my loadout. And it was because it had worked before for me. But I tried to play into this one interaction I had, and I had looked at all these other gaming channels. What really popped off for them? You look at Courage JD, Cypher PK, all these other guys, they have this one viral video, every channel, where they're helping a younger player in the game either get a win, or they're like coaching them and like working with them. I was like, okay, well, let me take that into Warzone, because that won't really work in Warzone like it would in Fortnite, but I'll have the kid make my loadout, which I already had done a few times. And I'm like, but this one, I need to put my face on it. Like, let's just see if it works. I swapped out the thumbnail. Title was already the same, because I think if you don't have a title and a few thumbnails in your head before you post a video, you've probably already lost that one. So I already had that part. I had a lot of practice failing with titles and thumbnails. Title was really good. Swapped that thumbnail on, and it jumped up 20K views in the next 2 hours. I was like, what? So I'm talking to Shady. I'm like, what is going on, man? I'm like, this video is popping off. He's like, dude, it's good packaging. Like, packaging is everything. From that point, that taught me that I needed to focus more on packaging and not just the title and what I was filming. Because, you know, I always had a concept, what am I filming? What's the title? It really taught me that packaging is the most important thing on YouTube. So from there, I just doubled down. I'm like, let me focus on packaging for everything. And if you were, and you might have it still pulled up on your screen in most popular videos, coincidentally, after that, like when I went full time and right before I went full time, I had several series that went very viral in Warzone. I became a YY TikToker. I bought every pay to lose bundle that were all packages I thought of based on things that people had done in the past. And that's really the formula that I used. And you can see here, there's the YY TikTok versus camper. These are all packages that are super simple. And I have a few that are kind of in the last month or two that are like going pretty viral. And it's all just around these concepts that are very easy to understand, right? Like clickbait, 7-year-old, a sweaty movement player in the game. Everybody hates that. So it's these things that like anybody who plays Call of Duty would either see and know what it is or get curious based on what they know it is. Just simple concepts all around my face as like a tool for making it evergreen and clickable, but just simple concepts and then just delivering on them. And once I figured that out, YouTube got a lot easier for me. Oh,
that's awesome. Yeah. And I feel like some creators are afraid to almost overdo it. Like, oh, but you know, people are going to get so sick of seeing the same type of thumbnail over and over. And it's like,
yeah.
Well, clearly no.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly not. And also the Gestalt principle, I think it's a design principle that says like, people don't actually really want novelty in design. They want the things that they're already used to so that they expend fewer calories in their brain. It's just like they get it right away. And that's sort of what I see has happened here. It's just like, okay, this is the guy doing these videos.
Yep.
And then you have different supporting images and sort of props, a little bit of text. Yeah, like
Yep.
moved around, but yeah, very, very similar themes here.
Yep. You just make it as simple as possible. So like for me, I was trying to make my titles at like a 5th grade reading level where it's like anybody from like a 35-year-old, because like I'm thinking in my head, I'm making this video for someone who's age 16 to 40, because that's generally what my audience is. And there's a lot of older gentlemen who are older than me. They watch the videos because they like the pace of it. They like the ideas, like, they like the humor, and they like all of it combined. And it's like, it's super intentional. It's like, who do I want to make content for? It's like, okay, I want to make it for that wider base. And so you kind of just take what works in the niche and you just, you make simple ideas. Now there's a lot more that goes into that, obviously, because like if somebody just started out, they copied that exact same idea. A few months later, they put their face. It's not going to work as much, because I think putting your face on it when you get to a certain level is smart. It makes it evergreen. It makes the video do better. There was a point where it didn't work so well. It would do worse with my face. And so it's obviously a lot more complicated than what I'm saying of, just slap your face off and take a concept. But that's where the experimentation and the fun comes in, I think, is learning what does and doesn't work.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Like in previous podcast episodes, I would put my face on there, and I was like, nobody know. Why am I doing this? Nobody knows who I am, and nobody cares. Maybe in a couple of years we could try this and see something different. But
yeah, it's a aspect of humility that I had to have at a certain point, and now, fortunately, like there are videos where actually I'm working on going back and changing some older videos that didn't have my face that did fine, that I think would do better now with my face because people are so used to seeing it. And it definitely takes time to build it up. For me, it was like 2-3 years of posting short form and getting established. And once I knew that it was time to maybe try my face, I kind of like almost rebranded myself, as I used to wear different outfits on stream. Sometimes I would wear a hat, sometimes I wouldn't. And like people would recognize my beard, right? But I was like, how can I make myself, so everything I've done, like from the polo to the tie to like just how I act, it's all reflective of like an exaggerated version of me, but it all makes sense. Like I thought about it, I refined it. And then as I like rebranded myself and kind of kept going, people already knew my channel, already knew me. It made it even easier to understand who I was and what my brand was, because it's like, oh, that's the dude that has the beard and wears the tie and the backwards hat. It doesn't seem like it would all fit together. Yeah, it doesn't fit together. Like no one would ever wear this in real life. And that was all intentional, because it's like, it just matches like sometimes the awkwardness or the dad jokes that I would tell in real life, but I just play it up in content. It's like, it's just a version of me that's like more energetic at times, because obviously I'm not going to always be so energetic in real life. Nobody is. But it's like, it's what all the bigger content creators, quote unquote, do. Like somebody like Jinxie. He obviously is not going to act like that all the time in real life, but it's just him, but more played up. And there's a bunch of people in gaming that's exactly what it is. Like Tim the Tap Man. He's just playing, I'm sure he's playing a character that's a more played up version of himself. And so you have to figure out, how do you make yourself a persona that people can get behind and not just the videos? Because now, fortunately, I have the liberty of, there's a lot of people who they'll just click a video if they see my face. And I had to earn that over a lot of years of making videos, but it's like a great blessing now, because those people, just by doing that, are like supporting me and my brand. And that, I think that's what people need to figure out, is how can you get people invested in you and not just your video ideas?
I really like that. We talk about the 4 reasons people watch. This comes from Nate Black, but there's search. So like a very specific question that I need answered, how to change a flat tire, etc.
Yep.
There's education, which is ongoing questions. Entertainment, which is just fun, nice escape. And then what you're bringing up, which is connection. How invested and how connected to the actual creator do I feel? Like, are we watching because we want to watch this game be played, or are we watching because we love CPreds and I want to see what he's up to today? Like, why else would people watch vloggers, for example, right? Like, I want to see what Casey Neistat is doing on his skateboard in New York City, for example. Yeah.
And that's a great creator as an example, like early YouTube, like the PewDiePies of the world, and Casey Neistat, people like that. So many people, and there's a lot of YouTubers now like Ryan Trahan, where a lot of people, they just want to travel the journeys and things that he's on. But I think where some YouTubers get it really right, like Ryan Trahan, Sambucha, is people like them and like their branding. And you can just tell looking at their thumbnails, they're very recognizable figures. They stand out, they wear the same things, but they put themselves into the story of the thumbnail, whatever it is. Like you might see Ryan Trahan laying in a bed or whatever, or Sambucha in some sort of weird suit or whatever in the thumbnail. But you can always tell it's them, and people go for them and the idea. If you could get people to do that, get invested in your ideas, because I'll get a lot of comments, dude, this is like a crazy, nobody's doing these type of ideas in Warzone. It's like, I try to push myself on that. How can I level up the next video idea and level up my branding? It's kind of what Mr. Beast does really well. Like everybody knows who Mr. Beast is and what his branding is, but his video ideas continue to impress every time. If you can do both, you're going to grow at some point. Like there's no way you won't. Like you can't convince me. If you don't have those, like if you have those two things, that's all you need, really.
That's a cool insight. And again, I never really thought about it like that. It's like in the beginning, it's really all ideas. Like all you really have is your ideas and your effort, more or less. But then over time, the thing that becomes more sustainable and that can actually do a lot of the heavy lifting for you is you. Like you have you. And how much do people actually like, trust, and care about you as a human being?
People like content. They like to consume content about things they like from people they like. Simple as that. Like we all do it. Like the YouTubers that I watch, people like Ludwig and Tim the Tatman and stuff like that. I like watching their content because I like them as people and how they deliver it. And then whenever they have a new piece of content, or like with Tim, it's not necessarily crazy ideas. It's just him vibing out with the boys or whatever, but it's enjoyable to watch. And so that's all people want is that.
I love it. It's great for me to know because people hate me and they hate my ideas. So this is tough, very useful. Yeah. No, I think I've been doing it all wrong.
That's tough.
Yeah. It is what it is. Dude, as we sort of like inch closer to the end of the conversation, would you be willing to take us through like the actual back end of your content business and how you diversify your revenue streams and like how you actually do this full time?
Absolutely. So when I was starting out, revenue looked a lot different for me than it does now. I was relying really heavily on TikTok. TikTok was the thing that first I was like, this is going to push me full time. Then, TikTok goes through a few different waves. Like I was one of the first people to join the creator fund back in the day, and I was telling people to get in it. People were like hesitant to join it. I joined it. I was making some decent income off of TikTok. And it was like, I'd say it would range anywhere from like some months would be 1,000. That would be a low month. And then there'd be months where it was like 4 or 5K off TikTok. And it was like, that's what I was primarily relying on. And then when TikTok got banned the first time, a little bit before that, the revenue went way down. I don't know what it was, like a month or two before. Maybe it was like the advertisers pulling out because they knew that TikTok was in jeopardy. But even still, TikTok is now only a few $100s a month for me. Like TikTok, I basically only use it for brand deals. Like when I'm posting on TikTok now, I don't really care about how the TikToks perform because like the conversion of followers to like, for example, people watch my YouTube video. When I'm streaming on TikTok, there'll be a lot of people there that are like, hey, I watch the videos, which is cool. But TikTok doesn't necessarily do a lot for me monetarily outside of brand deals. So I pretty much just try to average above 100K because if you have above 100K every post, brands will want to work with you and I can get income that way. But I kind of saw TikTok as a larger piece. Like when I try to do brand deals now, it's mainly on my YouTube. And then TikTok is like, hey, you can get my TikTok and my YouTube or whatever it is. YouTube is for sure like the main thing that pays for my business. It wasn't always, when I was starting out, I'd probably make around 2 to 4K a month on YouTube. Even when I hit 100K, when I was at 100K, it was still around that rate. It was like not consistent. You'd have a month that was like 5K, but it wasn't the norm until probably when I went full time and I figured out long form. And then it was like I was starting to have these 8, 10K months. And that's when I really felt good. But I just gone full time. So I had YouTube. TikTok was still paying me well at that time. And then I had brand deals. But one thing I've learned is like you just have to post everywhere and take as many revenue streams as you can, whether it be merch, whether it be like memberships that you sell. Like, are you a creator that's educational? Well, then people might sign up for these services where you could provide value to them. That's what I would look at if you're wanting to go full time, is how many revenue streams can you get? Now for me, YouTube long form, it just pays the bills consistently and I don't really worry about it. I post very long videos intentionally because the longer the video, YouTube pushes it more and you get a higher RPM because people are watching longer. So luckily I don't make a lot of money off donations or Twitch or anything like that. I make my money off brand deals and YouTube for the most part. Facebook, Twitch, TikTok, they add a little bit in, but it's really nothing. It's probably, I don't know, less than 5%, all three of those of my income. It's 80% YouTube and then maybe 15% brand deals. And so I feel really blessed and fortunate because people can just support me by watching my content. So people enjoy my content. I get to do this for a living. I don't have to rely on gifted subs or hey man, I'm going. And people will gift some subs, I'll have some memberships, some subs. I'm really thankful for the people that do, but it ends up being 1% of what I rely on, which is nice because then if people are supporting, it's dude, thank you for the support. And I don't feel stressed that if somebody doesn't gift 200 subs, I'm screwed. So that's kind of where my revenue sits. And then I invest a lot back into business, and I always have because I realize how important that is. So I have a content manager. I have 3 or 4 editors. I have a personal assistant. I have all this stuff because I know that investing back in the business is that long-term play, and it's all about growth and continuing to grow. And, fortunately I can do it as a profession now. So it helps a lot.
Yeah, it's so awesome. What has been the number one best investment back into the business that you've made?
Getting somebody on your team that is working with you on long form, whether it be long form editing or thumbnails. I think taking that pressure off allows you to have somebody who can provide that aspect and you can focus on something else. So I would say an editor is the best thing you can do. And honestly, the first person that I hired was I think a shorts editor, or maybe it was long form. I don't know. The first investment I made for sure was hiring some sort of editor because editing is so time consuming. And all you need to do as a creator is, you need to edit yourself when starting out. Because if you don't know how to edit, you can't tell somebody else how you want it to look. And you have to figure out your style. And if I want to edit right now, I could open up Premiere, I could cook up a little storytelling short, and it would look fairly similar to what my editors currently do. But they're way better at it than me. They're way faster. And if anything, it's I'm paying them as an investment so I can focus my time elsewhere. So definitely editor, without a doubt.
Yeah, great. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you taking me through that.
Of course.
And I just love seeing the breakdowns. And I think what strikes me also, because I've had several creators on the show just break down briefly or in great detail the revenue streams, it's always very simple. It's rarely this complex, convoluted, I have this I have this insane portfolio of revenue. It's just there are only so many major platforms to post content on, or if you have sponsors, brand deals, maybe your own products. But it's just great. It's
don't overlook the brand deals, but I'll say this too. A lot of people get in too early on the brand deals and they're taking these deals they shouldn't take. I didn't do a lot of brand deals. I think I did one brand deal in my first 2 years. And that was even when I had 200K on TikTok at that point. By the end of 2 years, I definitely had over 200K and close to 100K, I think. But I didn't do any brand deals because it's if somebody pays you what you're worth at that moment, it's not a lot. In terms of what value you can add to their brand. And I see all these guys on. There's this one creator, I'll think of him. I'm not going to, call him out by name, but I'll say this. He's a younger guy starting out, he's finishing up high school and he'll ask for advice dude, how do I work with brands? Yada, yada. And I always tell him, don't, because the reality is if you don't have representation, you don't have an agent, somebody that can parse all that contract for you, ensure you get paid, it's a waste of your time. It's going to be a headache because you're going to depend on that $1,500 or whatever it is they paid you. They might not pay. They might not follow through. Just focus on what you can control, which is your content. And so for me, luckily, any brand deals are kind of just extra on top. I rely on YouTube. It's been consistent, especially the last 3-4 months. It's been consistent revenue growth. I can rely on it. And that's all that matters. Everything else is just on top. It goes into savings, whatever it is. So I'd say before people go full time, if you're not on YouTube and relying on YouTube, I don't know if I would go full time. I know that's a hot take, but relying on Twitch or TikTok, I personally wouldn't do it just because the ups and downs are too crazy. The TikTok algorithm, it's explosive, but it's also unreliable. Like you'll get statistics where it's like, why did this video go viral? It had all the stats and it just simply didn't. YouTube, I've always found if a video is good, it has good stats, it'll pretty much always get results and you can always see why you failed. So I wouldn't go full time unless I had YouTube to rely on personally.
Yeah, I mean, it's the gold standard for sure. And certainly TikTok this last year, if it's taught us anything, it is that TikTok is a volatile, like who knows what's going to happen, man?
Yeah. And it's short form as a whole, it's like short form, you can go uber viral. Like there's this guy in Warzone right now and I see his clips all over the feed. He's found a good series. And I always say this, it's never hate against, like I love when I see people going viral that are new in the space. The reality is I have seen so many people have a viral shtick that lasts for like a few months. But what about when people get tired of that? It's like, then you're in trouble. Because if you went full time and you were just relying on Twitch subs or TikTok views, like YouTube Shorts is a little more consistent, but even that, like short form, you should have everything going. Long form, streams, shorts. If you go full time, you should have all of that. Like if you put out a tweet, it should get good interaction. Like you should feel pretty consistent about the brand and audience you built before you're like relying on that for your income, in my opinion.
I love it. Yeah. And again, just picking out the patterns of sort of your philosophies and what I've been getting out of this conversation is the word that comes to mind is durability, like longevity and durability. Are you doing things that can outlast trends that may bring short-term results, but like, are you still going to be playing this game 10 years from now?
Yeah.
100%. And man, as we come to the end of this conversation, can we bring it home? I have a few rapid fire questions. We can just
hit me.
Bang through them.
Do it.
What in content creation is getting easier for you, and what is getting harder?
Easier, I would say, is ideas. Like it's starting to come a little more naturally in terms of like firing out ideas, coming up with how to word things, etc. Harder, I would probably say consistency, because at a certain point, it's like almost hard to outplay. Like you're like basically competing against yourself every month. So it's like you see 1 month, okay, cool. I did this amount of revenue, this amount of views. How do I replicate that the next month? It's hard to almost keep up with yourself over time, I would say. So like consistency.
Cool. Number one lesson that you have had to learn the hard way.
Just because you got a certain amount of results or views on one video or the channel in 1 month does not mean you're guaranteed anything the next month. So just take nothing for granted. And I would say, I'll give you an example of a time period where this really hit me hard, was around November when Black Ops 6 came out this year for Call of Duty through January. Like November to January were my lowest months since I had gone full time. And I got complacent is what I would say it is. I got complacent. The videos weren't as good. I wasn't putting out as much. And I think never take anything for granted. That'd be the number one lesson.
Yeah. What is your biggest hot take about content creation that most other creators would disagree with you on?
It's not luck. That's what I would say.
It's not luck.
Yep. If you want me to expand upon it, I can, but I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll just do it briefly. I'm sure you've seen it on social media. There's a lot of people who are like, it's the luck versus hard work component. I would say content creation is like maybe 1% luck. I'm convinced that it's 99% grind and learning and whether you're meant for it. Because there's a lot of people who they might work hard, but they're just not meant for content creation. It's something like everybody has a calling in life, but there's a lot of people who they'll put out content and maybe their energy or like how they record, they just don't have those skills. And people will try to write that off as like luck. Like, oh, well, that person's just lucky. It's like, well, maybe you just don't have that skill set or that work ethic, which nowadays in 2025, a lot of people want to say everything's about luck, yada, yada. It's not. That's my take on content creation.
Yeah. I heard someone on Twitter call Gotham Chess. He's the number one chess.
I have heard of that. Yeah.
Say that he got lucky because he just started making chess content right before the chess boom over 2020 and since then. And I'm just thinking, that man posts every day. He travels the world for chess content. He does more for the chess space than any other most other human beings. And so like you do it then. Like, okay, let's like go in a time machine and like you just start making chess content right before the chess boom. And like you mentioned earlier, let's see if you would still be doing it every other day today.
Yep. I mean, and that to me, like when people say luck, I just see that as opportunity, which is also a part of skill, is finding opportunity and seeking it out. A lot of people are like, oh, well, all these dudes that are like huge in Warzone that just blew up in Blackout in 2020 Warzone, like they're not skilled. Like I see it all the time. It's a lot of jealousy from people who are like, I should be where they are. It's just people who were in the right spot, use the opportunity. It still takes skill, and people don't realize that. So like Warzone 2, when Modern Warfare 2, 2022 came out for Call of Duty, the end of 2022, it was probably like the dark days of COD, and COD content was like falling off and everybody. For me, I grew a lot that year once they, started updating the game and like people got over the fact that it wasn't the game it was before. I grew a lot because a lot of people just were salty and not taking content seriously. And I took an opportunity when the game was in a bad spot. And that was a big year for me. And I think a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of opportunities. They're just not taking advantage of them.
Favorite creator outside of your niche?
I'll go, it's hard, but I'll go Ryan Trahan.
Okay. In this pursuit of content creation, you mentioned what you were willing to sacrifice. What have you been unwilling to sacrifice?
Interesting. I think for me, it's like faith and values, because I think that ties in so heavily to like how I approach content and what I do. Those two things, I think, kind of being tied together is kind of like, I guess you could use another word for it as like morality or like your philosophical view of life. For me, it's like that's super important. I wouldn't sacrifice that, especially somebody watching. I wouldn't give up that, your values, your faith, like religion, things like that.
Yeah. Last question for you, sir. If you could go back to month 1 of CPreds, trying to make it as a content creator, just started, what one piece of advice would you give to him?
That's a good question. And I would say it's all going to be worth it. That would just be the advice I would give, is like going back to myself and just remembering the absolute grind and like the tough nights of like not sleeping as much as I should, or like not having a social life, or like not focusing on like physical health and things like that, because I was just so locked in. Just telling myself it would be worth it, and just not to give up, probably.
And you haven't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here you are.
Yeah.
CPreds. Dude, this was a wonderful conversation. It was great.
Thank you for having me, man.
Meet you and dive into all of this. Where should I link people if they want to check out more of what you got going on?
Yeah. You could just find me at CPreds on pretty much all socials, like Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. Anywhere you're probably consuming content, other than I think Rumble right now, because I think I'm on there, but I don't really post there. That's pretty much everywhere but there.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for a wonderful chat, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah, likewise, man. Appreciate it.